Okay, I just finished off that pizza. That was pretty good. My body is no longer the temple it once was. Okay, so in this video, what we're going to look at is laying out the different UV shells. So Maya just lays them out, and it's a very Maya kind of way. What you need to think about really is what kind of screen real estate is each separate shell going to take up, because yeah, you need to kind of think about that, because if you've got a texture that's really detailed, and it is I don't know, let's say this particular UV shell, for whatever reason you decided to make that big, you're not going to see it. It's kind of pointless. Or maybe like, what's this bit? Like, oh, the side of the stump. Maybe you make this bit this big, or whatever. You know what I mean? You need to kind of think about this in a slightly more logical way. If this was to be a 2048 by 2048 texture, these two bits would, give or take, collectively be taken up, what's that, like 512? Well, actually more than that. So yeah, you'd have to sort of think about this. So if this was, actually it would be 1024 by 1024 be taken up. So yes, you have to think about a little more about what it is that's more important for you. So I'm just going to redistribute these, if I can kind of get my words out. Right, so the faces of this is going to be pretty important. So I'm going to make this a little bigger. So this is roughly going to equate to, I don't know, it's going to be over 1024, because 0.5, half of 2048 by 2048 is going to be, well, half of 2048 is going to be 10. I'm going to think about this. 1024. So yeah, so we're going to have to think about this. I mean, this is going to be quite detailed, and that's not just for the front, but that's also for the back as well. So yeah, maybe about there. The belly also, again, that's quite important. So yeah, we might need to think about the placement of this. I mean, what's kind of cool is it's quite long. So yeah, we'll put it to this side like that. There's nothing to say that we cannot reorient these pieces, these shells. Perfectly fine to do so. Maya gives you like a bit of a default sort of thing there. What's this bit? This bit's the sidearm. Right, okay, so again, let's just kind of lay this up a little bit better. There we go. And it's about managing all these separate pieces and trying to find logical little gaps and places to put them in. So this bottom of the stump, we don't want this to take up like reams of space, but we'll put that down there, say. This could actually be a little bit bigger, you know. We could, I don't know, maybe rotate it to get a little bit more out of it. So it's all these small little adjustments. What's this bit here? To double tap this. This is one of those little pieces there. I mean, this, in terms of how, you know, pull the camera back a little bit to sort of think, how big is that going to be? It's going to be pretty dinky. So maybe what we could do to get some, you know, you don't want as you want as best coverage for each UV shell. So you know, you don't want them to be minuscule. You do want them, however, to be taking up the best possible coverage. So it might mean that you have to tweak things, push them up a little. I'll definitely have to kind of scale that, unless it can fit in. I think I might have to scale it down a touch. Whatever, I'll do. And this is this other piece, so that's going to have to be scaled pretty relative to, you know, sort of fit this space almost. And again, you might have to rotate these pieces. It's a little bit like a puzzle. Think of it like really shit Tetris, where, yeah, you know, it doesn't have that annoying music. It's just the only noise in the background is your tears when you successfully screwed up and hate yourself forever, because it is, you know what, UVing, believe it or not, people get paid to do this. It's unfortunately one of those jobs that everybody has to do. Well, if you're involved in 3D, you will have to do it. You could just be really cheap and just use the automatic UVing tools. They would be fine. That would be totally fine. So see there how the horns are relative in, well, you know, in terms of scale to one another. There's not sort of one that's going to over dominate. And what's this piece here? This is his arm, and this is, what is that? Double tap and hit F. Oh, it's his mitt. Okay, so let's see where this is going to go. And then we might need to then just sew this together a bit. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There we go. Cool. Good. That was pretty easy. Move and sew. Boom. Look at that. So what I might have to do is just modify, unfold. There we go. So that's kind of largely going to sort of scale that up. Okay, so that's his arm. So see there how before Maya, if you, I'll save this out as like V2 or something like that, and you'll be able to compare the two, how with one UV shell, I mean, don't get us wrong, this is not the only way to UV this. I'm sure that people will find other fantastic ways of bringing more pain about themselves other than UVing. But it is tedious, but it is really necessary. So in terms of sort of dead space, there isn't actually, it's not too bad really. So it's, yeah, it is like, it is what it is as a process, but it's unfortunately is one of those things that you have to do. So in terms of dead space, that's not so bad. I mean, yes, there's little bits like that. Yeah, you could, you know, to really try to maximize these textures, you could push these and scale them out. And now this might be where you would sort of look to think about, right, okay, if there was any UV distortion, you might then come in on a more component level. So yeah, you might turn on checkerboard and see where, I mean, there's quite a bit of UV distortion which we could look at. Yeah, like around the back perhaps of the head there. And the way to sort of look at this is this, using this white and white and blue, kind of check them up and sort of looking to see what's going to give us a better result. So tool smooth, and it's going to try to sort of relax. So relax seems to work quite well. So yeah, anyway, let's come back over there. Yeah, so the main thing with this is looking at, you know, that you don't have any UV shells that are overlapping one another. So at the minute I've made that a little bit bigger to try to maximize the UV coverage of his, of the face of it almost. But then in doing that, I've kind of pulled that, and then yeah, so we're getting better coverage. So yeah, that's the key thing really. You know, maximizing this UV tile and ensuring that your textures are relatively square. And the next thing that I might end up doing is, let's just turn that checkerboard map off. Save, edit, delete by type history, because when you're modeling your stuff, you do want to make sure that your history is quite lean. I mean, you look at all that, there's quite a bit of history, and it will ruin your life, and that'll destroy work if you have problems potentially. It has been known to do that, so get rid of the history where you don't need it. Okay, the next thing that I might end up doing would be going to rendering, texturing, 3D paint tool, and then assign a texture. So 2048 by 2048. I'm just going to leave that as default almost. Image format is an IF, so it's basically an image with transparency. If you want an image without transparency, obviously a JPEG. If you want an image with transparency, a PNG or an IF. Generally, IFs are pretty robust in that they'll work across different bits of software. I'm just going to use an IF. So what I would use this for generally, let's just very quickly fire up. Actually, let's just get rid of view even display. There we go. Command and Z that, because we don't need that weird line that I've just drawn on. Okay, so what's really useful with the tools, the paint and texturing tools in Maya is you can obviously paint directly onto the mesh, but yeah, Maya doesn't really have any labeling kind of tools, so if you find it quite hard to identify what a particular part is, you could then just say face. And you get that updated. So you can see there how I've had to spin the map around, so you can see that it's oriented this way down. So if I was to draw that, you would then see that. And then this is where we might need to tweak the UVs, because those UVs aren't updating. So yeah, assign, save, assign. There we go. Maybe let's shading, wireframe unshaded, that'd be useful as well. Make the brush a bit smaller. This might be like the horns that you might want to. This is purely just, this is me painting the texture. This is purely just me kind of, let's say your only tool at your disposal is Photoshop and Maya. It's another option for you, so you can just kind of use this to sort of quickly sketch in, so you're not wasting more time fannying around in whatever software, you know. And then largely, obviously, yeah, like if this, where's it at? So this is the hand. There, so you can see that that's the hand, and this is it's a shame. Let's just see if I can do this. Hide that shell, and then let's try to. That's just a weird display thing. Don't know why. Don't shoot me, the messenger. For Maya's really, really annoying tools. Okay, so go back to the brush. Oh, it's not going to let us paint on it, I don't think. Okay. Maybe, oh, there we go, cool. It is. Maybe this is the palm. So it's kind of useful in that it's allowing us to identify what the different shells are. See there how I've just painted on this bit here. And kind of updated on there, so something to watch out for. Okay, so you could use that almost as a way of labeling your different. That looks like something from, I don't know. Looks kind of creepy. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it looks a bit naff, face, whatever. But as a way of labeling, and that's just purely a display thing now. Maya's trying to save RAM or whatever it's trying to save. Yeah, so it's really useful in helping us to identify what the different parts are. So you could paint on a direct, like this, and then basically Maya will attach a texture to that. So Lambert 1, color, and then you'd come into here, this little arrow, and you can see where it's saved it out to: source images, 3D paint textures, staff, cylinder. Basically, because I haven't renamed it, so it's P cylinder 55.6 shape color 2.if, and then you would load that up, pull it into Photoshop or whatever, and then you'd have it as a bit of a guide. What you could also do is, whilst I'm thinking on, Windows Modeling UV Editor, and this is really, really useful for if you're taking your UVs into something like Photoshop. Would be go to, let's just break this dock off like that. Would be go to Image, UV Snapshot, and what this will do is, let's just sling this on the desktop and just call it Test, just for the time being. And 2048 by 2048 is fine. You could pick different ranges. Okay, apply and close. Let's fire up Photoshop. Okay, what have we got in Photoshop? Okay, image planes from previously. Create new tab. Oh, actually, open my file. Cancel that. Command O to open. Desktop and test.if. So this, see there, this UV shell. So now directly in Photoshop we could then start to paint directly onto the mesh. So this is the process that I would generally use. So kind of useful. Everybody's opinion is going to differ, but that's by and large how I would do it. The next few videos, what we're going to look at is different texturing techniques. So we'll be looking at different texturing techniques in Photoshop. We'll be looking at different texturing techniques in Mudbox as well. And I'll be putting a series of videos together over the holidays. Right, okay, I will see you later. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my pizza. And I'm probably going to have a drink. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.